Afternoon, everybody. It's 5 o'clock on Tuesday, which means it's time for math. My name is Jeremy Jasper with KathleenJasper.com. And for the next hour, we're going to do all things math for your teacher certification exams. So just like we do every Tuesday from 5 to 6 p.m., I've got 10 problems that I'm going to go over. A lot of people ask, well, what test is this for? Or what am I going to cover? It's just a generic math session where you, as the viewer, have the opportunity to send questions in to me, and then I will go ahead and go through those. I'll pick some questions every now and then just to make sure that we cover a good generalization of what it is that you might see on any math certification exam that you're going to take, whether it deals with your elementary from the bottom, elementary certification, all the way up to a high school math. Just know that everything builds upon the basics. So knowing the basics of arithmetic, knowing the basics of algebra, and then putting those together are going to help you pass your exams. Now, my goal here is to, give you shortcuts, tips, tricks, anything that I possibly can to make it so that you pass these exams. Remember, you don't need 100% to pass. That's the most important thing. Your test specs are going to be your greatest source of information for your certification exams. So make sure you know what specifications are on your test, most notably what calculator you're able to use, whether a scientific one or a four-function calculator, all the way to how many questions are on the test and the passing rate. You can always check the passing rate. They give it to you in like a percentage. And so usually 75, we say 75% is like our go-to. If you're getting 75% of your questions right, then chances are you're more likely to pass than not. Some can be higher, some can be lower. It all depends on what test you're taking. So that's where you need to be. Know that you don't have to get 100%, which means that you don't have to answer every single question on the exam. But when I say that, I mean, where if you come to a hard question, guess, put an answer, and then move on. Don't waste your time, because time is the most important thing that you have on your exam. So as we go through, let me just make sure we're on Facebook Live, and then we're also on YouTube Live from 5 to 6 p.m. every Tuesday. But you may be catching this on the recording. This is recorded after I'm done with every session, and then it's available to you in our library. If you have any questions or comments or concerns, by all means, please email us. That's info@KathleenJasper.com. But if you're joining me live, you'll see that you can comment on the video, whether you're in Facebook or you're on YouTube. So I encourage all the comments so that, we can have a nice interactive session. And if somebody needs help, that's why I'm here for you for this 1 hour. So let me go ahead and just make sure everything is working correctly. And I can see if there are any comments. And so I don't, which is good, I guess, but I see people are joining us. So let's go ahead and not waste any more time and get started. Just like I begin every session, I say, have your calculator. Don't use your phone as a calculator. If this is the only time you're using it, then make sure this is the last time you use it. And from here on out, check your specs and make sure you only use the calculator that'll be supplied to you for your exam. Also, scratch paper. You are not allowed to write on the test. So therefore, when you practice, whether it's out of a workbook or a sheet of paper or anything, we tend to do our math underneath the problems and write everything out. You have to learn to see the problem on the screen and then transfer it down onto your paper and then work with that. So you're not always looking at the problem and working on it like you would be as you're practicing now. So I got that out of the way. Let's go ahead and begin. And so with our first problem, and I mix it up. We'll do some word problems. I try and get as many word problems, honestly, as I can, because I know a lot of people struggle with the word problems. So many word problems, not just straight math, because I feel like most of you can do that. But again, if you have any questions that do deal with straight equations, send them to me. I'll have them done for you. So this first question here, it says an automobile manufacturer offers a rebate equivalent to 15% of the list price of a vehicle. If a new sedan normally sells for a list price of $30,000, what is the price that must be paid after the rebate? Okay, so there's two ways you can do this. And again, I like to show you as many ways as possible because I want you to make the decision on what is more comfortable for you. I am never going to tell you this is the way you have to do it. I'm not that type of person. I'm the type of person that wants to make sure you're comfortable with what you know. I don't want to try and change anything. I just want you to get the right answers. So the first way I want to do it, and this is the way that I feel is the easiest. Okay. So it's just going to take me a second to explain it to you. And that's what I do is I'll explain these problems to you. I'll write out a bunch of stuff, but just know that you need to get to the point where you are spending as little time as possible on each problem. So I may be long-winded on some of these and going into depth in a couple of different ways, but you need to just understand that. That's why I'm showing you, kind of giving you the foundation, and then you speed it up as you understand it better. What I want to kind of show you is with the percentages, and it's just a way of doing it. So understand that when I have 100% of my price, I have $30,000. So anytime you have 100%, it's what the cost of whatever it is that you have. So 100% equals $30,000. I need to know what it is when I get a 15% rebate. So with this 100%, because this represents the total price of the vehicle, what if I gave you a 15% discount? Discount means to remove or take away. So I will take my 100% and I will subtract 15%, and that's going to give me 85%. So you are no longer paying 100% of the vehicle, you're paying 85% of the vehicle. And so how do we figure out what a percentage of a number is? Well, we have 85%. So again, real quick, and a lot of you may already know this, but it never hurts to refresh. How do I turn 85% into a decimal? Well, when we have this in the sign, we pretend our decimal is here, and it's always 2 spaces to the left. So I go 1, 2 to the left, and my decimal equivalent of 85% is 0.85. Another way of doing it is percent means per 100. So in your calculator, just do 85 divided by 100, and you'll always get the correct decimal equivalent as well. All right, so we understand that 0.85 is our 85%, and that is our 15% discount. So that when I go to actually figure out the answer, I'm going to go ahead. I'll do 0.85 times 30,000. And when I do that in the calculator, I get 25,500. And what you did is you did it all in one step. I know it took a couple of steps, but understand the calculation part. You did the 100 minus 15, which you can probably do in your head, but if not, do it in a calculator, you get 85%. Now it's just the 85 or 0.85 times 30,000, and you get your answer right away, and C is the correct answer. Okay. So I'm going to show you the other way, and this is probably the more common way. And this is also fine as well. And this is, this is kind of what they teach in school and stuff, but. So it's telling you you've got the 15% and the total price is $30,000. So what you'll do is you'll do 30,000 times 0.15. And what that's going to do is that's going to get you your discount. In this case, it's a discount of money. So we did that. And then now what you'll do is you'll take an extra step you've got to do 30,000 minus 4,500 equals, and then you should get the same thing. Yeah, 25,500. Same thing. The way that I did it, I just calculate the percentage. I know it's 0.85 and then the 30,000. Okay. I mean, honestly, this takes one step, this takes 2 steps. So, you know, either way, that's how you would do it. I like this way because it just completes it together. Now, this has nothing to do with this problem, but in other problems, okay, and even let's just say, let's do tax. Everybody deals with sales tax. So same thing. What if you had to pay tax? I'm gonna cross this out. What if we had 6% tax? Okay. What is a tax? Tax is not taking away, it's adding to. So in your head, this is how you can do it. 100% plus 6% equals 106%. So now 106% is really 1.06 times 30,000. And then, I'm sorry, I'm like totally racing on here. Slow it down. 1.06 times 30,000. And what it's doing is it's adding that 6% to it. So you don't have to do 0.6% times 30, get a number, and then add it to the 30,000. Same concept of what we did, except this is adding instead of, you know, this is not a discount, but in addition to, I can't think of the word right now. Sorry about that. And so, you know, you would do the 1.06 and you'd get your answer. And just so you have it, it would have been 31,800. So there's $800 worth of tax in there. I'm just trying to show you both ways, but just the most important thing, in my opinion, is use the percentages. So 100% is always your beginning price. A discount takes away from the 100. You're adding something like a tax, you're going to add to that 100 and then just multiply it. And that's all you got to do. Okay. Next one. What is the next term in the sequence? And the sequence is 1, 3, 7, 13, 21. So when we have something like this, there's 2 types of sequences. There's arithmetic and there's geometric. I promise you that says geometric again. Okay. Here's the difference between the two. You're going to get a sequence. This one will always add. This one will always multiply by something. Okay. Knowing the 2 terms, that's dependent upon the test that you're going to take. They may say, what is the next term in this arithmetic sequence? Or what is the next term in this geometric sequence? And then you'll know. Otherwise, they will just say, what is the next term in the sequence and give it to you. And you have to make a judgment on your own. So most of the time, if you're taking anything less than a middle school math test or a high school math test, it's going to usually, okay, I can't say all the time, but usually be an arithmetic or arithmetic, depending on how you say it, sequence. Okay. So just knowing those 2 terms and knowing the differences between those. So let's go ahead and remember, if we do something like this, this is what I was talking about for using your own scratch paper. So you get this problem. And so what you do is you look under here, you go, okay, what's the difference between 1 and 3, 3 and 7 and 7? We can't do that when we're on the test. So we're either looking at it, staring at it, or we just have to go ahead. We need to rewrite it. So we'll go 1, 3, 7, 13, 21. So 1, 3, 7, 13, 21. I'm leaving some space in between because I want to see how these are being done. We need to find the pattern. So really just find the difference. So if I do the difference of 1 and 3, you'll see that I do +2, which means from the first one to the second one, I add 2. So let's try it on this one. If I do 3 plus 2, I get 5. So 3 plus 2. So if I do 3 plus 2, I get 5. Is 5 right there? No, that's not going to work. So let me go ahead and find the difference here. So I know it's not going to be all 2s. 3 and 7 gives me 4. So that's +4. So let's do the difference of 7 and 13. And that gives me +6. So do you see the pattern? The pattern looks like it's going to be even numbers, 2, 4, 6. I'll bet you this is 8. So 13 minus 21 gives me +8, which means what is the next number here that we need, which is the next term in the sequence. And I go 2, 4, 6, 8. It should be +10. So do 21 plus 10, and you get 31. And 31 should be the correct answer. Okay. So figuring out the pattern, sometimes it's the same number, but just find your differences and then look for patterns. It could be adding 2s like this one is. It can be adding 4s. It can be any combination of really anything, so that when you get to that next sequence, or they'll say, what is the 7th term in the sequence or the 10th term in the sequence? You may have to, draw it out, but just do it this way. There are formulas to figure these things out. Like if it wants the 22nd term, and that's a lot, there are formulas for that. But for the most part, this should just be, they're assessing on, can you find the pattern? And then what's the next term? Okay. Okay. Problem 3 says the sum of 3 consecutive integers is 36. What is the largest of the 3 integers? All right. So the sum of 3 consecutive integers. Here's how, automatically some people will go just like this. I got 3 numbers. They're right next to each other, and they got to add up to 36. So some people might just go x plus y plus z equals 36. Now this makes sense, right? Because they can't all be the same. You can't have x plus x plus x equals 36, because they have to be 3 consecutive integers, which means that's doing like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They're all different numbers. This is saying all the same numbers. This is saying all different numbers. So hopefully you see the difference between those two. And so what we have to understand is, why did they tell us consecutive? Why did they say that specifically? All right, because this is not going to help me. The reason why this equation right here is not going to help me is because I have 3 different variables in one equation. If this were the equation, this and x equals 36. So x equals 36, I can solve this because there's one variable, one equation. If I had y plus x equals 36, and then like 2x plus y equals 14, this is now called a system of equations. 2 variables, 2 equations, I can solve it. 3 variables, 3 equations I need to solve, and so on and so forth. So obviously we are not going to make this problem way too complicated. So we need to understand consecutive integers and how we can go about doing this. So if x were our number, okay, so x is one of the numbers. There's 3 of them. Let's say the first one is x. How can you use x and show me the next number? Well, we're just counting numbers, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is the first number. The second number is going to be the same number, but the next one, or add 1. So this would be the second consecutive number. And then this would be the third consecutive number. Okay, see how that works? Now, understand I've got 3 of the same variables. I can solve it, because what we want to do is we want to sum the 3 consecutive integers that are going to equal 36. So we can do that And don't forget the most important part of the question. They want to know what is the largest of the three. So you need to figure out what this number is, not the x, but the x plus 2. Okay. So now that we got that, I'm going to rewrite it. And that's it. And that's why I know, that's why I told you I'm going to explain all this to you so that you see a problem like this. You're like, oh, there's the three consecutive integers. So if I want three consecutive integers, I'm going to do x plus 1 plus x plus 2 equals 36. So I just put them in parentheses so you can see how each one is its different term. But honestly, you could have just done x plus 1 plus x plus 2 equals 36. Put all your x's together. You've got 1, 2, 3 or 3x. Your numbers together, I've got 1 and 2, so plus 3 equals 36. Subtract 3, and then I get 3x equals 33. Divide by 3, and you get x equal to 11. So is that the answer? No, and I don't even see the answer there. Sometimes they will put that answer there. I'm surprised that they didn't have that answer there. Honestly, I should have known better, and I should have put that answer there. So you know that 11 is x, but remember, x is our first term. These are three consecutive terms. So I told you we need this one. So now you take this x, okay, and you do 11 plus 2 equals 13. 13 is the answer to this question because it asked for the larger of the three integers. Okay, so if you got 13, you are correct. Okay, there's also another variation of this problem. So this, understand this, because this is something you can definitely see, because you know it screws with your mind, because if you don't understand that three consecutive integer part, then you're going to be lost. So if I let me show you this other way first, though. Sorry, it's just it came to my head before I even spoke. If you're totally lost, or sometimes you see a different way, remember, answer choices on these tests are a resource for you. They're giving you a multiple choice test. That's a good thing, which means that the answers are there. The answer is somewhere in this set of numbers right here, which is a good thing. So you have a 25% chance of just guessing correctly. So now, if you understand three consecutive integers and the larger of the three, then what you would do is you would just take your calculator or just write it down if it makes you feel better. Start with A. If I do 17 plus, now remember, you got to count backwards because you're using the larger of the three. So it'd be 17 plus 16 plus 15. And does that equal 36? No, I think I wrote them down. Excuse me. I think I wrote them down. And of course, I didn't add them up, but you get the idea. 17 plus 16. Right, that's 48. And then the next one, 14 plus 13 plus 12, that's 37, 9. And then 13 plus 12 plus 11, that's my 36. And then 12 plus 11 plus 10, that's 33. There, you can do it that way as well. Okay, so sometimes if you get confused, maybe that even takes, maybe that's even faster. I didn't even realize it as I was looking at it, but that's a way that you can use answer choices to your advantage. And that's what they are. So read the question, look at the answer choices, and see how you can work that out. All right. The other way I wanted to show you, it's another form of this type of problem. And I'm not going to solve it. I just want to show you, is that they will say the sum of three consecutive, and they'll throw this in here. They'll either go odd or they'll go even. Okay. And so what does that mean? Well, it just means that you have your number here. So that's your first term. And then how do I get the next odd or even number after the one that I already have? Well, x plus 1 is the next consecutive. So x plus 2 is the next odd or even, right? So that would be my second, and then x plus 4. Okay. So in our case, our number was 11. So then that would be 11. And then this would be 13. And this would be 15. So you get that 11, and then 11 plus 2 is 13. 11 plus 4 is 15. They're both consecutive odd integers. So that's another iteration of this problem. If you get something like that, that's how you solve it. Okay. Next one, again, dealing with patterns. If May 7th falls on a Monday, which of the following dates will fall on a Wednesday? Oh, my goodness. I did not even see that. Okay. I read this wrong when I did, and now I'm looking at it on the computer screen. The answer choice, I'll just let you know the answer choice is going to be wrong on the answer key. And I apologize for that. So let me just solve it out. If May 7th falls on a Monday, which of the following dates will fall on a Wednesday? All right. So we know our days of the week, right? So in this case, it's just best to do it with our deductive reasoning. So let's just make a chart. So I've got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. There's only 7 days in a week. So if 7 falls on a Monday, okay, which of the following dates will fall on a Wednesday? So in order to get to Wednesday, I do, so let me do this. Okay. Because this totally changed. And I'm sorry, here's what threw me. I thought it asked for Monday when I read the problem the first time around, and it says Wednesday. So the way we want to do it is if I'm at 7, then I'm going to do 7, and then plus 1 gives me Tuesday, plus 2 gives me Wednesday. So when I get to a Wednesday, which is this one, I'll do 7 plus 2, right? This would be plus 3, this would be plus 4, this would be plus 5, this would be plus 6. And then if I wanted to go on a Monday, it'd be plus 7, right? So Wednesday is a plus 2. So I'll do 7 plus 2, and that gives me all my Wednesdays. So that equals 9. So then for however many Wednesdays I need, because it's all by 7, right? Because we have 7 days in a week, you'll just do it by 7. So 9 plus 7, and then let me see here. Or let me do this. Let me just make a chart. Sorry, I'm on the fly here. 9 plus 7 is going to give me 16, and then you do 16 plus 7. All we're doing is just 7, so 23, and then plus 7. That's going to give us our 30. And so these are all of our, what are we looking at? May, and then they throw an April in there. Well, if we don't hit our Mays because we're in May already, then process of elimination will get us to our April 31st. And so I see that May 23rd is a winner here. And so that's going to be our answer. So the answer is B. So I am sorry about that. If you looked at the answer key and you saw that problem 4 said A, that was my fault because I thought it said a Monday. So I will hopefully change that. So that answer is now B. Okay, make a note of that. But we solved it right here. So I didn't solve it incorrectly on this video. You're seeing me solve it correctly. And again, it's just finding the pattern knowing there's a constant. Our constant is 7. So once we figure out, so like if I wanted to find Fridays, I would do, so May 7th, I would start with this 7 here, add 4 because I wanted Fridays. And then from that number, just keep adding 7s, either forwards or backwards. And that'll get me all of my dates. Okay. And then knowing, because it gets confusing because you think, oh, May 7th, and then you think all these dates are in May, but they're not. That April one. So April could have been, and we would have had to have gone backwards. So just so you know, you gotta stay within the problem, because something simple like this can confuse you because there's a lot of different variables in there. Okay. All right. All right. Next problem, finding the median. And I am just going to go ahead and double check, make sure everybody's okay on the Facebook. Looks like everybody's good. Okay. And all you guys on YouTube, you guys are awesome. Thank you. So are you. Glad everybody's with us. Again, any questions or comments, let me know. And if you need me to stop, I'll try and catch it. And hope we're learning something, because that's what we're here for. All right. Identify the median of the following. And so we have our number sets. So there's really no shortcut to these. Okay. It's just, if you see it, you say to yourself, median, you know, median is the middle number of the set, and that's what you got to go for. The problem is you'll get something like this, and it's going to be all out of order. So the first thing you've got to do for number sets is you've got to put them in order. When you look at these, you'll see I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, got 8 numbers here. And when you're taking these tests, I think I would say 10 numbers at the max. When it's 10 numbers, that's when they're going to make you do all this stuff. If you get problems that have, like, you know, there's 35 students and what is the median, you're going to have to use some tricks, some testing tricks to say to yourself, well, I shouldn't be writing all 35 numbers out and then figuring out the median. There's something there, but I don't have a problem like that tonight, but I have some in previous videos, so you can check those out. So with 10 numbers or less, then just go ahead and go for it. Know that you're going to have to do the work and spend the time to put them in order, and then figure out what it is that they're asking for. So for this set in particular, we're going to rewrite everything, because that's what we have to do. We can't work with these numbers in the problem because we're on a computer screen. So we're going to rewrite them in order, and it's up to you how you do it. You can write them all down on your paper like this, and then start crossing them out when you put them in order. So it's like, it should be 4, and then 7, and then 9, and then 12, and then 13, and then 14, and then 16, and then finally 45. So we've done them all, we crossed them out. So I definitely know I've used every number. I'll count it again. I should have 8 numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So now, which one is the median? So you can probably look at it. A lot of people do this. They'll start with one end, they'll cross it out. So I cross 1, cross 1, cross 1, cross 1, cross 1, cross 1. I can't cross them out, or else so I'm done with these 2 right here. In an even numbered set. So this is a set, right? So in an even numbered set, you're going to end up with this, which is, you have 2 numbers. You can't have 2 numbers as the median. So what do? And what you do is you take the average of the 2 numbers. So all that means is you're just going to add them and divide by 2. So you do 12 plus 13 and divide by 2, and you get 12.5. 12.5 is the median for this set, and the answer is B. Okay. When you have larger sets or something, I'll just show you a little trick to figure out which numbers are your medians. So for this one, we have 8 numbers. So we want the middle. So usually when you want to find the middle, you want to cut it in half. So if I have 8 numbers, I'll cut it in half and I get 4. So what does that 4 mean? 4 does not mean that's my median. This is helping you figure out which number in the set, when they are lined up correctly, is your median. In an even numbered set, it's, you divide it by 2, you get your number, and it's the next one. So this is the 4th number and the 5th number. So that's even numbered sets. Okay. And so when you count it, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, that's the 4th and 5th number. Those are the ones that you're going to add up and divide by 2. If it were, let's say this was 9 digits, let me just add a 1 right here. If this were 9 digits, this is an odd set. So an odd set would be, I take 9 divided by 2, and I'm going to get a decimal. I'm going to get 4.5. Well, you round up, and the 5th number is going to be my median. So if I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 12 would be the median in this set here. This is just a little trick that I teach people. It may be easier just doing it, line them up and then count them and cross them off. That's totally fine. But when you have more than just, in this case, we have 8 numbers, so it's fairly easy to work with. But when you start getting sets that are bigger than 8, 10, 15, and into those ranges, then this is going to help you out to figure out where your median is. And sometimes you do get problems like that. Okay. All right. Oh, yeah. Okay. I just saw that question. Yeah. 2 is to get us into half. That's what I'm doing. So when I divide by 2, I cut in half. So when I have 9 numbers here, when I cut it in half, that's the eraser. When I cut it in half, you see I land right on that 12. Okay. But when I have the even numbers like this one, so when I cut it in half, you see how I fall. I now am here. Okay. And that's why you get the 2 for the even. Okay. All even numbered sets, you're going to have to do the add them up and divide by 2. So just know that in your head. Okay. All right. Problem number 6. This is, you may see this on a general type of math test, and higher. General may be pushing it. Okay. You'll see this definitely in middle school and high school math, unless they give you the formula of what inverse means. But again, this is good for everybody because it's a little touch of algebra. So this is going to be good for anybody, no matter what. Once I tell you what inverse means, because most of you probably may not know, and that's okay. It says, let y vary inversely with x and equal 12 when x equals 4. What is the value of x when y equals 18? Okay. The biggest thing here is you need to know what inversely means, or inverse variation, what we call it. And inverse variation means this: it's y is equal to k, which is a constant, over x. All right. Don't expect you to really know that if you're doing like elementary math and all that kind of stuff, but that's okay. I'm giving this to you. This is now your formula. Once I give you this, now you should be able to figure out based upon the information that's given in the problem. There's another thing, it's called direct. Direct means just y equals x. That's direct. Okay. That's direct. This is inverse. That's what it is. Sorry, it's ax. Ax, like that. Okay. Inverse just means divide, or sorry, I should keep with this because I looked it up just to kind of see. We always used a, but this used k, so let's keep it constant. It's just telling you whether you're multiplying or dividing, honestly. Okay. So direct, indirect, inverse, however you see it. But anyway, inverse variation is going to be this right here. So now that we know what inverse variation is, this is our formula. It says let y vary inversely with x and equal 12. Okay. When x equals 4. So here's our equals. So it says equals 12 when x equals 4 are constant, and then x is 4. All right. So now we need to find that constant, because it says, what is the value of x when y equals 18? So when I do y equals 18, and I have this k here, and then I have x, you see here, I've got one variable, I can solve it. Here I have two variables, I can't solve it. So because this is all in the same problem, our k or constant is the same in all three of these. Hopefully that makes sense. So all we need to do is solve for k. And then once we solve for k, we put that into the next one, and then we get our answer. So let's do this one first. 12 equals k over 4. How do we get rid of this 4? Remember, if it's dividing, so that's what it's doing. This is dividing by 4. So we have to do the opposite. And the opposite means to multiply by 4. So I'll do 4 times both sides. That cancels us out. I get 48 is equal to k. It's pretty easy, right? So now that I know my constant, which is k, this will now get substituted into here. So let's make some room. I'll just put this here so we don't forget. K equals 48. So we're going to rewrite this as, because it said when y equals 18. So this is when y equals 18. We still use the same constant. So 18 equals 48 over x. All right, same type of deal. What do I do so that I can get this x by itself? Well, if it's dividing by x, we need to multiply by x, which means we multiply by x on this side. So we'll get, I'll just kind of rewrite it here. 18x is equal to 48, and then divide by 18. So we get x is equal to, now we get 48 over 18. When you do 48 over 18, you notice here, these are all in fractions. So when I go ahead and I do 48 divided by 18 in my calculator, I get 2.66, it goes 7. So 2.6 repeats. Okay. So now how do I get this? Oh, I should put that here. How do I get this over to here? So there's a couple ways you can do it. Let's first go ahead and eliminate what we know. I know that it can't be 6 because it's 2. I have a whole number of 2 right here. 8 over 3 and 4 over 3, maybe I'm not sure, but 2 over 9. 2 over 9 is definitely less than 1, right? In order to have, right, I've got 2 as a whole number. In order to have a whole number, the top number, the numerator, has to be bigger than the denominator, the bottom number. This is less than 1, so that's not going to work. So I'm dealing with 8 over 3 and 4 over 3. You know, if worse comes to worse, just go ahead, divide 8 divided by 3, and in your calculator, you get the 2.666, and that's the answer. If you did 4 divided by 3, you get 1 1/3. So that's not the answer. So that's the easiest way to try and do it that way, if you've got the calculator. Otherwise, you know, some of you are real quick. Let me kind of clean this for you. Some of you are real quick and you can, you know, that's gone and that's gone. 48 over 18, even if we did 2, and remember, they're even numbers. So, you know, sometimes you get frustrated when you're taking the test and your mind may not be clear. You just say, okay, each of these are even numbers. So let's just go even. So that's going to be 24 over, and then 9. And then it's not even anymore, but I see, maybe 3 works. So 24, 3 is going to be 8, and 3, 9 is 3. And you get your 8/3 that way. Okay. All right. A lot of chatter on this one. I've never seen a problem like this before. First for me too. Okay. These things come up. This, especially a problem like this in your middle and higher grades, specifically math test. You'll see this on like what's that? The test you take to get into graduate school. I can't even think about it right now. But anyway, those types of tests, you'll see it on the ACT, SAT. But if you don't see it, the thing I want you to focus on is if you didn't get this problem, what they would do is they would say, okay, inverse variation, or, inverse variation is this. So even if they gave you this, so they'll give you this, and then they'll say, equals 12 when X equals 4. So then you don't have to know this formula. Sometimes you'll have to know it if they're giving you the vocabulary, but otherwise it'll say inverse variation is this, Y equals K over X. Then they'll give you the information here and here, and you'll have to solve it. So even, the reason why I put this on here is because we did the algebra to figure it out, all that work that I just erased, but you can go back and rewind it. But you've got to know how to, if I solve for this and then they give me this, how do I, if I solve for this and then they give me this, how do I put this back in and do all that work? That's why they make problems like this. They're multi-steps. Okay. Next one here. The area of a circle is 8 pi. What is the length of the radius? Some people get confused when they see this. All right. This is when they use pi as pi. And it doesn't mean you take that and you multiply it by 3.14. If they're giving it to you, treat it like a variable. It's called in terms of pi. So just 8 pi. That is the most accurate number that you can have, because pi is it's an irrational number, so it just keeps going on and on and on. So anytime you use a decimal, you're going to be oh my God, sorry, you're going to be estimating it. So we have, and a lot of you will get formula sheets for this, and you'll see that you'll have to find the area of a circle. And so area of circle is equal to pi times radius squared. And we want to know what is the length of the radius. So all you do is you take this, you have 8 pi, and you set it equal to the formula for area. So now I've got pi on both sides. What happens when you have the same exact thing on both sides of an equation? They cancel out, right? Because if I divide by pi here, if I divide by pi, that means I divide by pi. What happens? Cancel, cancel. All right. So if you ever have an equation and you have the same thing on both sides, that's the same exact thing on both sides. That doesn't mean you have a positive on one side and a negative on the other. Then you cancel it out. So when we cancel these out, we're left with 8 is equal to r squared. Okay, almost there. So now, how do I get rid of exponent? What's the opposite operation, right? What's the inverse operation? And what the opposite of squaring something is taking the square root. So we take the square root here and the square root here, and you'll see that those cancel out, and I get r, I'm gonna put it over here. R is equal to the square root of 8. So I look at my answer choices and I don't see the square root of 8. So remember, when we're dealing with square roots, it's just like fractions. We need to put them in simplest form. The way that we can do this is as we look, so you'll see the 8 here and you'll just say, oh, well, maybe I just screwed up and I put that there and it really means 8. And some people will do that. And I don't want you to do that because you don't know how to simplify your radicals. So I'm going to clear this out. So we're good. We got that. You know how we got the square root of 8. That should be fairly simple. So let's go ahead and simplify. I'm going to show you how this works. Okay. So for those of you in the middle school and higher, it's usually easy for you to do this, but I always put this on my or I would put this on my sheet so that I just don't forget, but you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You can go to 10 and then you do your square. So 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, 64, 81, 100, right? You're just squaring each number. If you see it, it just makes it easier for you. So the thing with simplifying radicals, right? This would be x squared. This would be square root x, right? This is the square root of the number. This is the squared number. If I have square root of 8, you need to find the squared factor. That's these numbers here. So factor is what can I divide out of this number? In this case, it's 8. So I don't want to do anything, you know, higher than 8, because you can't take any number higher than 8 and divide it out. So we'll start with 4. Can you do 8 divided by 4? And yes, you can. Obviously, it's the last one there. So I can break this up as the square root of 4 times the square root of 2. Does that make sense? Because 8 and 4 and 2 is equal to 8. And they're still under the wrap. We didn't do anything to them. Now, look at 4. And you always take the perfect root first. Can you do the square root of 4? Yes, you can. The square root of 4 comes out as a 2. And then square root of 2 is the simplest that you can go. You can't go any simpler than square root of 2. So what happens is 2 square roots of 2 is our answer. And let's just keep it there. And that's why A is the correct answer there. Okay. If you don't do that, or you don't see that, or you don't understand it, I would say Google, you know, simplifying radicals so you can practice, obviously. But if you get to the point where we got to our square root of 8, if you do it in the calculator, do 8 square root, you get 2.828. That's good enough right there. And I'll just go down your answer choices. In order to figure out what 2 times square root of 2 is, you do square root of 2 in your calculator. So this is what you would do in your calculator. You would do 2 and then the square root button, 2 square root button, you get a number, and then you do times and then 2 again. So that's how you would string it along in your calculator. And when you do that, you'll see that you get the 2.82. Obviously 4 and 8 don't work. And then 3 square roots of 2 is the same thing. 3 square roots times, and then, oops, sorry, I did the wrong number. 2 square roots times, and then 3, and you get 2 square roots times 3 equals, that one's going to be 4.24, obviously 2.82, 2.82, and that'll get your answer as well. All right. Okay. Let's keep moving on. Let me double check. Make sure all our Facebook people are good. I think they're good. I don't see any comments. I see some thumbs. All right. Sweet. Should probably refresh because sometimes the comments. All right. We're good. And everybody on YouTube's good. Okay, we got just a few more, and then I'll get through these. All right, the stem and leaf plot shows the percentage of questions on a Spanish test that were answered correctly by each student in a class. Okay, here's our stem and leaf plot. Always good to know how to read this, all right? And then it says which statement is true. So in order for us to figure out the right answer, we're going to have to go through each answer choice and then compare it to our stem and leaf plot. So what this means is, and they'll give you the key here. So it means I take my stem, which is the first number, and then these are all the numbers after it. So for this first one, what it really is saying is it's saying 70, 7 and a 0. So we've got a 70, a 70, a 70. Just because it's a 0 doesn't mean it's 0. It means it's 70, and there were 3 of them. You have to list all of them out. There were 370s. So that's what 370s looks like. And then 75 and then ... because all of these fives represent 75. That's how you read stem and leaf. And it's important, you know, we don't use it a lot. I mean, I'm sure somebody uses it a lot, but you always see it on these standardized tests. So there you go. So now let's go through each of these answer choices and figure out which one works. So A says 9 students answered 55% of the questions correctly. Well, I don't see a 55% because again, this shows the percentage of questions on a Spanish test, and 5 would be up here and it's not even shown. So I can't do that. Okay. So that's out. B says half the students answered 70 or 75% of the questions correctly. So here's 70 and 75%. So if we count them up, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? So that's 8 out of 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. 8 out of 19. Does that equal 50%? Because it said half the students. And I can tell you that it does not, because half of 19 is definitely not 8. 8 divided by 19, just so you can see the number. It's 0.42. So that guy's out. All right. For C, it says, let me clean this up. C says 8 students answered more than 80% of the questions correctly. Okay. And so when I see 8 students answered more than 80% of the questions correctly. So where's 80%? 80%, these 3 here are 80%. So more than, remember, this is more than. A lot of people will see 8 answered more than 80%. So you want to take into account that 80. We don't. We want to take these 3 here, these 4 here, and this one here, because that's more than 80. It can't equal 80. It's got to be greater than 80. And so when we count these up, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And so that is correct. 8 students did answer more than. Be careful with those more thans, because they'll get you. And then obviously you would stop if you're confident enough, and you should be, but otherwise we always doubt ourselves and we're always anxious in these tests. So we always go through all of them. 10 students answered 100% of the questions correctly. And even though it looks like 10 down here as a 10, all this means is there was a score of 100. And there was only one of them, because there's only 1 0. 10 students answering 100%, there would be 10 zeros all along here. So that is incorrect. C is the correct answer. And it's I've seen stem and leaf plot, find median on Praxis 2 middle school. So there you go. Praxis 2 middle school, you may have to find the median. And again, they can do a whole bunch of things with this. They'll make you find the mean, median, mode. Range is a good one. Some people get screwed up with the range on these, but yeah, this is a data set, but it's just in a different form. So always make sure you know how to read these. All right. Next one, the graph shows the cost to rent a surfboard for different amounts of time. There's our nice, beautiful graph. You can see all of our data points. Looking at our axes, this counts by 5. I always like to look at the axes. This counts by 5. This counts by 1. So if I ever need to figure something out, know that it's just not a 1-to-1. It's a 1-to-5. So you gotta be careful with that. And then see here, this is spaced out by 2s. So it's really a half, 1, 1.5, 2. So always make sure you're looking at your graphs, and then depending on what they're asking you, that'll help you out. So we've got, shows that it says which list best represents the independent values of the graphed points. Okay, so independent, what does independent mean? So we have independent and we have dependent. Okay. I'll tell you right now, the easiest way to think about it, X and Y. X is always the Yeah, X is always the independent, Y is always the dependent, right? Y is always dependent upon whatever X is, okay? And so when we have it like this, here's our X axis, here's our Y axis. Anything that's going to be independent is going to be on the X axis, okay? So it's just gonna be these numbers here. If it asks you for the dependent variable, then the dependent variable is always going to be the Y. Okay, so just, it's always like that in charts too. So like whenever you get numbers, like in this one where it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then in this one's like 5, 10, 15, 20, right? Sometimes they'll put independent and dependent, just like that, your X and Y. Just if you can, in your head, if you ever get a question like this, the only reason why I picked it out, just so we could cover independent and dependent, is that X always relates to independent, Y always relates to dependent, right? Y is always dependent upon something. You can't just have your X, you always have X is something, you pull it out of the air. In this case, it's usually time and stuff like that. Y is dependent always upon that, or your Y axis is always dependent upon your X axis. That's all. I just wanted to go over those two terms really with you. Okay. And then the last one, let's throw in a little geometry in there for fun. The figure represents a water trough in the shape of a rectangular prism. In order to put a new tile coping around the sides, 18 inches of water needs to be drained out. What will be the volume of water left over once the trough is drained? Okay. So the easiest way to figure this out is I need to take this down to here. Let's call this it. Let's call this minus 18 inches because that's what we need to do. And what do you see here? We're dealing in feet. So the first thing I want to do is convert my inches into feet, because if I can take this out, right? These are fine. This is good and this is good, because in order to find volume, volume is equal to length times width times height, okay? And you'll also see volume is equal to big B, capital B, times little h, which is height. All the big B means is area of base. And that just means you're 2.5 times 7. So that's why those are good. That's the one you'll see on your formula sheet. And I hate that they put that there. I mean, it is correct and true, but we always learn it as length times width times height. So let's keep it that way, since that's what we know. So I need to convert my 18 inches into feet so I can subtract it from the 4. And what I want to do is I want to say to myself, okay, I'm going from a small unit to a big unit, right? Small is inches, big is feet. How do I convert from inches to feet? Well, whenever I go from small to big, okay, I need to divide. And what do I divide by? Like, what's the magic number for inches and feet? Inches and feet is 12. There's 12 inches in a foot. 1 foot is equal to 12 inches. So I take my number and I divide by 12. So in this case, I will do 18 over 12, and that gets me 1.5. So 18 inches is equivalent to 1.5 feet. Okay, fair enough. If we needed to, and we're going to hold this off for a second. What if we had to do it the other way? Okay, and this is good for all of you that are having trouble converting things. What if it was going from big? So what if I had to go from feet to inches, or big to small, any measurement, like whatever they give you? Could be ounces to pounds, could be miles to feet, could be all that stuff. But if you go from a big unit to a small unit, you're going to multiply. And in this case, it would be multiply by 2. So if I needed to change this feet into inches, I would do 4 times 12 and get 48 inches. And then I could figure it out in inches. So this is this is a good little trick to have if you're having trouble converting units in any way, because sometimes you may forget, well, am I supposed to divide them? Am I supposed to multiply them? Does it matter? Okay. Small to big, divide, big to small, multiply, and you're good to go. So that's what we did. Let's get some space here. And we did our 18 over 12 to get 1.5 feet. So now we take our 4 feet minus 1.5 feet and we get 2.5 feet, right? 2.5 minus 1.5. So this new dimension, because we drained 18 inches out, this new dimension is now 2.5. So volume is length times width times height. So now just take your number 2.5 times 2.5 again, right? 2.5, and then times 7, length times width times height. So 2.5 times 2.5, 2.5 times 2.5 times 7 equals 43.75 cubic feet. And the answer D, just like that. Okay. The biggest thing here is understanding what draining the water out means. And all it is just changing this level, changing this 4 feet. That's why I brought it down to here. Then obviously they're going to throw in there a nice conversion just to throw you off course, but that should be fine for you. It's just a quick conversion. You're either going to multiply a number or divide a number. And then finally, length times width times height, get you your volume, and you're good to go. That is what this prism would be like if we took out 18 inches worth of water. Okay. All right. That does it for tonight. Let me double check and make sure there are no comments. Looks like you guys on YouTube are good. Let's check our Facebook people. And I think they're good. I bet you there's comments and I can't see it. And that sucks because I know there's a way to get them. So I'm sorry if you commented on the Facebook, I can't see it now. I think what happens is they show up after I'm done with the live session, which sucks. But if there's something that I just didn't answer, then please go ahead and shoot me an email. I'm happy to reply to any questions. It's going to be at info@Kathleen with a K, Jasper.com. All right. So you can follow us on all the major socials: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. I think that's it. Yeah. And you can hit us up on the info there. On the website, you'll see there's a place where you can email as well. Send me your problems, send me your questions, send me what this 1 hour session or however long we go every Tuesday from 5 o'clock is when I start. It's all for you guys. So I'm here to help you out. I want you to pass these tests. I want you to get, especially the math. Everybody has an aversion to math, and that's fine. I get it and I'm cool with it, but I just want you to know enough to get that passing score, because the last thing I want hanging over your head is some stupid math test that impedes you from getting your teaching certificate and teaching what it is that you love to do. So that's why we're here. Again, any questions, please let us know. That's it for me for tonight. I hope everybody has a fantastic weekend or week, and I will see you next Tuesday. So take care, everybody. Have a great week.